I've always had a fascination with woodwork, and I've been on a bit of a journey with it. I've often thought of ways to reimagine bits of wood, turning them into functional pieces like lamps, and even crafting my own ring box from some wood when I proposed to Mutsa. When we lived in the city, I kept collecting pallets and upcycling them into things like coffee tables, seating for our garden, even a little bar. And that led to working with plywood to construct things like this cabinet for Mutsa's workshop. During that time, I also ventured into whittling, a much more intimate and slow craft, entirely different altogether. Learning to make a spoon has required the most of my time and effort out of all my woodcrafting hobbies, and I'm learning every time I make one. I thought I'd show you that process here, from the stump of wood to the finished result. I'm by no means an expert, and I usually embrace imperfections and let them characterise the spoon, so each one always comes out different. Today I'm carving a little coffee scoop from this birch that had fallen down in the woods after a storm, and I'm beginning how every good project begins. In hindsight, it wasn't the freshest wood, but it was still quite soft, which would make it easier to carve with. Originally for this project, I'd planned to use the remainder of some apple wood that I'd frozen in the freezer, but I'd left it in a very awkward shape and it wasn't very easy to start on. So it's a good job I found the birch. If the slice with the axe goes well, I should have a good flat surface of wood. So I'll draw a rough shape of the spoon on it. I used a measuring cup as a guideline for the size. Then, the vague shape of the spoon can be carved by the axe. Also using the saw to help carve out the sides. Then it's ready for the knife. To keep it sharp, I use 2 grades of wet and dry paper, 1200 and 2500. Followed by a few strokes with a leather strop. I always find working with a knife is pretty hard at this first stage, but the more wood it takes off, the easier it gets. I think lighting is very important when carving, because sometimes facets hide themselves when not in the right light. I'll keep checking the spoon against the light to make sure I'm keeping any edges roughly consistent. Then comes the hook knife to carve the bowl. This is probably what I need most practice at least in gouging the first layer of wood out. But again, it does get easier the deeper you get. I drew another rough pencil line for a boundary to carve up to, just to keep from going too far outwards. As you can see, this stage proved to be quite difficult, but I did start to make some progress. I'd roughly met the pencil line with a hook knife at this point, so then I trimmed the outside of the bowl to make it finer. I just had to be careful of the top. It was looking a bit splintered, and if I kept hacking at it, it would probably keep getting worse. So I left it quite rough for the next stage, which is sanding. The spoon was now basically resembling its finished shape, complete with its little imperfections, but I like to sand the wood for a smoother finish. Then, after wiping it with a damp cloth, I finished the spoon with this beeswax and linseed oil. This was made by mixing 5 parts linseed oil to 1 part beeswax, which my aunt kindly gifted me, as she keeps bees. And there it is, a new coffee scoop to add to my growing collection of hand-carved spoons. Each one has taught me something new, and each one holds a story.